Hey everyone, as some of you might know, I recently created a new YouTube channel called Dino where I will focus all the upcoming dinosaur cinematics. You can find the link to the Dino channel in the description down below. So if you like my dinosaur content and would definitely want to see more, please head on over there and subscribe to my dinosaur channel. I hope by doing this to cater my videos more to those only interested in the dinosaur videos and give you the content that you want to see. Currently I'm uploading the current season episodes on there, but will start the newest season there very soon. Also, since I already started this season on the Kanoa channel, I will still finish it in its entirety on here as well. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the episode. The newest dinosaurs that would be added to the park were the Thesaurus. They would be added to the Edmontosaurus zone, which had more than enough room for half a dozen creatures more. As the usable ground would slowly run out, it could very well be that the scientists and builders would look at previously built territories and add new dinosaurs to these to adhere to the demand for more. But the Thesaurus was now considered a safe move and did not receive as much media attention as with the Giganotosaurus, that still was swept up by the introduction of the T-Rex couple previously. And so the Thesaurus were finally moved over to the new pen and were introduced to the Edmontosaurus family, or the Ninja Turtles, as they became known among some of the public due to their color variations. Though it was common for the Edmontosaurus to be very docile towards other herbivore species, even an agitated one like an Ankylosaurus, there was still some tension and nervousness amongst the scientists when the beasts were finally released. But as expected, everything went just fine, and it did not take long to see the two species intermingle and drink the same water and eat from the same feeders. By having now also so many of these larger creatures, this part of the zoo actually became really bustling with life, and the U-shape of the road made this a frequent area to have a break for families. Could be a good spot to maybe set up some picnic tables for people to picnic while watching the dinosaurs. And so for the next couple of weeks, the prehistoric zoo enjoyed its worldwide attention again, as audiences rose, mostly to see the T-Rex and the Giganotosaurus. But there were so many other beautiful creatures on display too. The one even more mysterious or majestic than the other. And in a sense, the dinosaurs themselves were so special that visiting the park never dipped down too much, but the statistics definitely showed peaks and rushes during the introductory period of a new all-star attraction. But truth be told, by now they were running out of all-star attractions. Now mind you, there were still a lot of dinosaurs that could be introduced to the park and that were fan favorites amongst dinosaur lovers. But something like a T-Rex or a raptor transcends that barrier of a dinosaur fan, and even those not too familiar with dinosaurs still know what a T-Rex is, which makes them all-star attractions. Therefore, during the discussions behind the scenes, it was agreed upon to give the die-hard fans something very special, something they had not yet seen before. After the huge success of the introduction of the mammoths and the woolly rhinos, it was time for another creature that came after the extinction of the dinosaur. The park would welcome its very first Kalinkan, otherwise known as the Terror Bird. This incredible looking creature was only recently fabricated and thus was never introduced to the first park nor the safari one. Therefore, It was very special to finally have it be properly introduced here. The Kalinkan was incredibly fierce looking, and rightfully so. For a brief time in history, the Kalinkan stood at the top of the food chain. It hunted and ate herbivores and even other carnivores. It could run incredibly fast, but its secret weapon was its razor-sharp beak. With it, the Kalinkan could not only rip and tear, but also stab its prey, giving it an edge over your average carnivore that only resorts to biting. It also would use its massive claws to rip open its victim, and overall, if you were chased by one of these creatures, you better be hoping for a quick death, because most likely, the Kalinkan would not give you one. They also had very aggressive personalities and were very territorial. In general, the Kalinkan did not really socialize with others unless it was mating season. But because it was so aggressive, and since the money holders wanted to show off multiple animals, they got a high dosage of fabricated behavior prohibitors. Even more so than the Giganotosaurus received. They eventually were finally flown over to their new exhibit, and there was something ironic about a bird being transported by a helicopter. Once they arrived at their new home, they were a magnificent thing to behold. Their colors or patterns weren't anything to speak of, but just their demeanor and the looks were enough for anyone putting eyes on them to hold their breath. Despite the behavior prohibitors, one could still see clearly how dangerous and otherwise aggressive these animals were. You could just see it in their eyes. Especially the purple ones stood out. But the prohibitors definitely worked, because even when the animals got near the fences, they did not showcase any will or reason to try and leave. They had found a new home with an unlimited supply of fish and meat, and they were more than happy to live out the rest of their lives here. And with that, it was already time to introduce another dinosaur to the park. Next to the Kalinkan zone, a very large piece of land was set up and reserved for its next guest, the Brachiosaurus. This gentle giant was in some people's minds from the day of the opening of the park. Though it might not be world famous, it definitely received its share of love due to the SFX shot from the original Jurassic Park movie. The source would inspire scientists to make that fantasy a reality. And seeing as these dinosaurs were absolutely huge, it was of utmost importance to give them enough space to walk around with. Now, much like the Dreadnoughtus, their build was very much more vertical than horizontal. Even more room would need to be freed for dinosaurs like the Diplodocus in due time. Now, the Brachiosaurus were often seen moving in herds, and in reality, did not really have anything to fear since they were so big. It was interesting, because they had no clear means of defending themselves, but their size alone made it to where it intimidated most predators. Again, for something like the Diplodocus, that was not the case, since their skill was purely their length, but not their height, and their necks and head were perfectly in biting range, which is why the tail whip defense came in handy so much. With the Brachiosaurus being brought over to the holding pen, it was once again time to sedate them. These targets were so big that there was no trouble whatsoever. But once 3 of the 4 Brachios were down, another ranger team proved very incapable of following guidelines. It very clear states not to hurt the animals, and driving into them would logically be something that one would not do. But yet, there was another person, this time it was Ranger Dick, who apparently did not get the message. He was fired on the spot, and if any ranger would showcase this behavior again, they would be fed to a T-Rex behind closed doors. But only joking, of course. Probably.